So let's take the first question from Sean in PJ. It says, when I get angry, I get really emotional and it's hard to control. How do I calm down faster? Great question. So yes, there are some people who have, you're not very good at controlling your own emotional parts. What I would do to be polite is you would tell them, I really want to talk about this, but right now I just got to calm myself down. So give me some time. So tell the person first, then go off and, try to calm yourself down. There's a couple of different ways to calm yourself down. Number one is breathing techniques, right? And I want one of the best ways to calm yourself down, because when you're really angry and you're like, emotional, your heart begins to beat super fast. So one of the ways you can calm yourself down is physically slow your heartbeat by breathing in 6 times a minute. That's your goal. 6 times a minute, deeply in and out, where you only breathe 6 times a minute, and you'll slow your heart rate and you'll calm yourself down. The second one is a good one too, is meditation or prayer. Depends if you have faith or not. Prayer or meditation, when you go into prayer and meditation, it actually scientifically researched and proven to calm you down and even lower your blood pressure. So that's another good thing that you can do, okay? So those are 2 things I would, I think, Sean, you should just practice them. Practice them, right? Once you practice them, it's great, right? And remember, it's like a muscle. You got to keep practicing it. It might not work in the beginning, but keep practicing so that you get better and better. Great question, Sean. Let's go to the next question. Next question is Catherine in KL. How do I find a good mediator? Can it be a friend? Can we have more than one mediator? Cool. All right, Catherine in KL. Great question. How do I find a good mediator? Now, just a couple things you need to know about a good mediator. Number one is someone that you respect. Friends are a little bit tough because friends usually take sides. And that's why friends are they're a little bit biased, right? So that's why I do recommend someone you trust when it comes to advice. Someone you can get advice from, right? Someone you trust on both sides, right? So you can have more than one mediator, but the moment you have more than one, the harder part is those 2 mediators have to be able to communicate really well too. So in the beginning, I do recommend to make it simple to have one mediator that both sides trust, that both sides respect. Like for instance, at church, a lot of times people would confide in me as the pastor, that I would be unbiased and I would look at both situations properly and then be able to help them out on both sides, right? So it's finding a good mediator, someone not like a friend, like that type of trust. It's a trust of someone you know that thinks higher than you and can give you great advice and can calm the situation down. So that would be my best advice for you, Catherine. But this is a really, really good question. Let's go next question. Next question is Heidi in Penang. Says, I have a really hard time forgiving someone because I don't think I can trust them again. How do I let go of the past offense and move on? Wow, okay. Forgiveness is, wow, we can do another whole topic on this one. But we'll have another topic on this one. But the one thing you need to know, Heidi, is one thing that might be holding you back, it doesn't mean you have to trust them again. Trust is not something you just give back to someone. Trust is earned, right? So if someone breaks the trust, you could still forgive them, which means that, yes, I forgive you for what you've done to me. That's fine. Because you can forgive. Like a stranger, you can forgive them, can't you? All these people, you can forgive them, but don't attach forgiveness and trust. It doesn't mean the moment, like, it's like, if my wife cheats on me, I lost trust in her. I can forgive her, and I'll forgive her and say, yeah, I understand, you're really sorry. I see that you're really sorry about this. I forgive you. But it doesn't mean all of a sudden we're best friends again, right? Trust and forgiveness are not like combined together, right? It's something that people earn back, right? And you can still forgive without getting the earning, like without, the trust and the forgiveness are separated, where you can forgive them, you can still treat them nicely, and you forgave them for it, but getting the trust back, you want to separate that. And that could be one of the reasons why it's hard for you to forgive, because you're attaching trust with forgiveness where it doesn't have to be together, okay? Great question, Heidi. I hope it works out. Next question. From Lilia, all the way in Deutschland, from Germany. What can I do if I don't know exactly what I need to let go of? Wow, okay, that's a good question. If you don't know exactly what you need to let go of, I would actually, because like, I'm assuming, because from this question, I'm assuming that there is something that you're like anxious about, or something you don't feel good about, or something like, oh, what's going on? What's happening? You know, like, why do I feel so trapped? And there could be multiple different reasons. And one of the reasons I didn't talk about today, like I'm not saying this is a reason, but there's multiple reasons that Lilia, part of the things that could happen is you might actually have something that you did wrong, right? That you still hold guilt towards, right? That you just didn't realize. Like there's tons of different things, but another one is sometimes we have things that we did wrong and we just kind of like treat it like it was nothing and you just kind of move on. But a lot of people were hurt along the way or things are happening. There's one reason. Another thing you can do that I probably recommend also, this will probably lead you towards those things is, if you're a person of faith, well, Lilia, I know you in Germany. So Lilia, for you, one of the big things you can do is meditation and prayer. And with meditation and prayer, we do ask God and say, God, okay, God, there's something holding me back. I wonder what it is. We wait for God to speak to us. People in meditation, when they think like, oh, what is the thing holding me back? A lot of times when your mind becomes very clear and reasonable, we begin to slowly go back and see things bit by bit, right? And that's actually a very good thing. And if that doesn't work, if you really need help with it, like to something to pray or meditate about, I would say ask someone close around you. Right? Like ask them, hey, have I done anything wrong lately? Wow, you know what? Is there something that, oh, you know, you have people around you? Because put it this way, no one sees their own face. Well, unless you have a mirror, right? Right? But in most cases, no one sees their own face, which basically means usually it's the people around you that see your face. In the same way, a lot of times our actions and things that we do, we don't see it ourselves in the same way, but the people around us do. And another thing that I would advise is ask those people around you too, and they can help you out also. All right? Lilia, thank you for that question. Let's go to the next one. It is Hannah in Japan. Says, when I decide to fully let go of opportunities, a lot of what ifs come into mind after some time. How to deal with lingering attachments in order for me to achieve the greatest sense of letting go. Wow, good question. Because you know, one of the big things that happens to me, it's like when you get a bubble tea, I order it, and then I look back like, oh, I could have ordered that instead. When I see someone else walking by with another one. When you buy a phone or a big purchase, what do you always think of? You always think of, oh, is it cheaper somewhere else? And you keep, after you bought the phone or the laptop, you start looking somewhere else instead, right? You're looking like, oh my gosh, is there a cheaper laptop out there? And this is something that we do all the time. It is, right? And the one thing that you can is like, well, I already decided to let go of this opportunity. But they're like, oh, what if this and what if this and what if this? And the answer is true. It is true. There are a lot of what ifs. But the one thing you have to get in your mind is this. There are tons of what ifs, but there is no guarantee that it's successful and there's no guarantee that it's a fail. There's no guarantee. Like, you know, haven't you ever had that? When you have two choices and you take this one and then you fail here and you're like, oh, I should have taken that one. But the answer is, just because this fails doesn't mean this one's going to succeed. There's no guarantee, right? In life, one thing is we'll never know the future. We just don't. And that's a good thing, not knowing the future, right? If you don't know the future, then if it's guaranteed, then what happens? There's no excitement. There's nothing to work towards, right? You never learn anything. If anything, whatever direction you take, it's always a success because you're either gaining from it or learning from it. Other things, what ifs? Yeah, it's possible. It is. But you need to get yourself into a mode where you practice not to think about what ifs. You got to practice that muscle, right? Focus on what you have. This is one of the things that this is one kind of interesting way to look at it. The past is already done, right? Which means it doesn't exist anymore. The past doesn't exist. Like you can't change it. It's just there, right? And then the future doesn't exist either. Why? Because it hasn't happened yet. The only thing that really exists is right now. Like what is happening right now. And that's one of the biggest things we need to focus on. Even if I focus on the future, my future is not going to be 80% of my life on the future. I'm putting 10 to 20% on my future and like 60 to 70% on the present, because my present shapes my future. And the past, I'll put like 5 to 10%. Why? Because you can't do anything about it, right? The past, you can't do anything about it. Doesn't work, doesn't work. No one has any idea, right? If we were, the only time you should be upset is if you knew 100% it was going to succeed and you let it go. That's when you should be mad, but you never knew. So it's really hard to say that, oh no, I should have taken it. And the answer is, well, you could have, but no one knew. That's why if you understand this concept too, it's very hard to get mad at people, because you realize there's no way they knew whether it was right or wrong. They're just going off an educated guess. Okay? So, thank you, Hannah in Japan. We're going to go, we have our last question. So before the last question, we're going to give our bubble tea question of the day. So I want you guys to write this right away. Today's bubble tea question, last week you guessed my shoe size, which was a 12. Today, I'm going to give you a question, and I want you to write it down in the room, and then we're going to have a random number that's already selected over here. So like I said, if the number's 3, then the third person with the right answer will get it. Okay? So, ready? Question is, what country was I born in? All right, what country was I born in? Go ahead. Check it. Start writing away. Check. Cool. All right, now we're going to the last question. Last question of the day is from Diane. Diane in the Philippines. Hey, Diane. Oh, Philippines representing. I was telling them just this before. I was listening to a song from the Philippines today called Akin Ka Na Lang. Akin Ka Na Lang. I can't sing the rest of it. All I know is Akin Ka Na Lang, Akin Ka Na Lang, right? Let's see. You know what you've forgiven. Oh, you know that you've forgiven that person, but whenever you see him or her, all the pain comes back. Is it normal to feel that way? And the answer is yes, it is normal, right? Because things take time, and for each person, it takes longer or shorter time. The great thing is you've already forgiven them, which means that you're already on your way to the healing process. You're already on your way. And the great thing about this is this, okay? Since you're already on your way to the healing process, the great thing is, it's like a wound, right? So even if someone cuts me here, there's going to be a specific amount of time that it takes for it to heal, right? Even when someone says something nasty to you and they're your friend and they say, oh, I'm sorry, oh, it's okay. Yes, you're friends again, but it's still there for a bit, and that's normal. Why? Time heals. If you didn't forgive, then it's so much harder for you not to feel the pain. Like you'd have to just completely not see that person anymore. But since you've forgiven them, it's going to take some time. It takes some time for the wound to heal, right? So know that it's a normal and natural thing. And when your heart is ready, you'll be no problem with that, okay? And in the same way too, right? The same thing is, whatever it is, everyone's time is different. So don't be like, well, that person got hurt and then they healed after 2 days and it's already been 2 months. Everyone's different. We know some people are more sensitive than others. Some people are less sensitive than others. Some people are more sensitive to that topic, while other people aren't. Like for instance, with animals and pets, I'm not that sensitive, right? When you see like dead, like some, oh, my dog died, I was like, okay. But then of course, I never had a dog for that long, right? I was like, okay, sounds good. But someone else is like, eh, and then they all start crying together. Like I see dog movies, like these movies like A Dog's Journey and stuff. Everyone's crying in there. I'm like, why is everyone crying? And because they all have pets and they understand it. And I never really had like a dog. I really want one though. All right, let's go. Is this the last question? All right, one last question. Hannah in the Philippines. Wow, another Filipina. From Hannah in the Philippines. It says, sometimes it's not your fault actually, but the person didn't realize that they've done wrong to you. And in the end, you ended up being the one to say sorry and it hurts. What to do? Well, this comes into relationship dynamics. And in some cases, this is something that you have to think about too in the future is, there is a dynamic of people who is more mature. There's some people who are more mature than others. It's a normal thing, right? For instance, in this case, for instance, let's just say I'm a parent and I have my son or my daughter. And me and my daughter are arguing, and I am clearly right. Like this, I'm right because I've been through this before. But they're like, but you don't understand me, Dad. And I'm like, no, I understand this, but that's wrong. It's like this. Now, what's going to happen is this. It gets to a point where the argument is so fierce, or it's going to get to a point where the relationship is broken. Right? And in that case, what do? Someone has to bite the bullet. Because I can win the argument and lose the relationship, but in that case, am I thinking only about winning the argument? No. In the end, the relationship's much more important to me. And I know that later on when this person matures, that they'll realize what I've done. Like years and years, maybe even a decade later. But sometimes the people who is a higher or more mature has to sometimes what you call bite the bullet. Take one for the team so that the relationship can go on if you really love that relationship a lot. Okay? So I understand that, but now we're getting into relationship dynamics, and that's something that we really need to take into consideration, because it could be someone who's not as mature. Like as when I was pastoring the church, of course I would have to be the bigger person, even when I didn't want to be, right? Because I'm the pastor at that time, right? So yeah, I can think of one case right now already in my head. It makes me, no, just kidding. Yeah, all right. I hope that helps you out. Okay, this is the last question. All right. It's Gordon in Korea. Okay. Hey, Sky. Hey, Gordon. How do I deal with a person that keeps making the same mistake, but you don't think they will change anytime soon? Okay. Yep, you have to, that's something that it really depends how close the relationship is too. Because like for myself, if there's someone who keeps making the same mistake over and over and over and over and over and over again, and let's say it's a weekly thing, of course, you have to be patient, and you teach them and you help them, and sometimes they don't want to hear it, right? And this is really dependent upon how close you are with that person. Why? Because there are some people that we really, really love and cherish, and we don't want to see them get hurt, or we don't want to see them go away. And sometimes that same mistake isn't that affected, it doesn't affect you anymore, but affects a lot of other people. But you, of course, you have to go and help those people. And then also there's other people that have a very close relationship. Like say if that's your wife or your husband, and that's something that needs to be dealt with really well, right? And the more you deal with it, the more serious it gets, if it's that close of a relationship, because it's a marriage, right? But if it's something, it really depends on the level of the relationship. Some relationships are not that close anyways. If you keep making the same mistake, you just at my work, if there's someone there, it is what it is, right? You'll help to correct them, and do these things for them. But in the end, it's like someone who goes to work and they keep making the same mistake over and over again. Like they're always late, or they always make the same mistake, or they always hurt people, and eventually the repercussion is going to come for them anyways, eventually. And in a job situation, they get fired, right? Which means that if you think about ourselves too, we've had many times in our lives where we reached a certain point and it's like too much, and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I did this. And then it takes a while for you to finally click and realize, oh, I really should change. I really should do this. So if we look at ourselves too, there are many times that we didn't realize the importance of something, and it took us a lot of time to change, and we gotta kind of put that standard on other people too. That some people just need to wait for that awakening or that realization. And like I said, it's really dependent upon what the relationship is with that person. And sometimes it's okay, if it's not that close, there's not a big deal. But if the closer and closer it gets, the more big of a deal it becomes, because the more it hurts. So that's something that you need to gauge and scale on your own, okay? Thank you so much, Gordon, for that wonderful question. That brings us to the very end. And we have 2 winners for the bubble tea. Oh, we changed the winner? Oh, we didn't change the winner. Oh, no, okay. We picked number 4. The 4th person that got the answer right. And where am I from? I am from Canada. So congratulations to Yongjin on Facebook, and also Hannah Yusun from Japan. Well, I think she's Hannah Yusun. Hannah, is she Malaysian but living in Japan? Oh, she's Japanese. All right, Hannah Yusun and also Yongjin, put that thing back up again, so that make sure you go to espressowithsky@gmail.com, write down, hey, I'm the one that won, and then we'll send you over the free bubble teas, all right? Thank you so much for listening, and make sure, don't forget to take your pictures. Take your pictures with your bubble tea so we can see it next week. All right, guys, have a wonderful day, and we'll see you guys again. Bye-bye. Have a great weekend. Remember, make sure to subscribe on Espresso with Sky YouTube. And if you want to support us on Patreon, go ahead and click the link. Bye-bye.